Hi everybody, I'm Mark, the creator of the Nyx Tracker, and this is the how to assemble video for the do-it-yourself Nyx Tracker kit, which comes in a box like this. The do-it-yourself kit is a great option for those that are more technically minded and just like to get your hands dirty, but it's also a great option for a lot of people because it teaches you how the tracker actually works. And oftentimes, as astrophotographers, when we're out in the field taking images, we're far away from our home where we have tools. And so you need to understand how it works in order to troubleshoot problems that might arise. We have to improvise, and this kit can help you develop that skill. Okay? Before we go ahead and unbox and talk about the parts and then assemble it, I just want to point out that you're going to need a few tools. First, you want a screwdriver. A fine tip screwdriver works better than a large tip, and these are Phillips screwdrivers. The reason for that is there are some small screws in the kit that you'll need to be able to screw. Here we have a pair of pliers. A fine tip pair of pliers works a little bit better than a regular pair of pliers, but both can work. And then lastly, we'll need two Allen keys or hex keys, a 5mm and a 4mm. Eventually, you're going to want 4 AAA batteries and a camera and a tripod, of course. But for now, we'll just focus on the tools, okay? And then I like to use a coaster just to keep all the pieces from going all over the place, but you don't have to. All right, so let's go ahead and unbox and talk about the parts that are in here. All right, what you should see first of all is a Nyx Tracker starter manual. Now you can read this manual and it should tell you how to use the tracker pretty clearly, but there will also be a how to use video. Check the links on the tips and tutorials page. There should also be a instruction manual here for assembling it in addition to the resource of this video. Take the foam and discard it, and then you're going to see the tracker with a bunch of parts. Go ahead and remove the parts bag, set that aside right here. Take out the wood pieces right here. If you open up the wood pieces, you'll see we have a battery pack. We have a driving rod with a threaded gear on it. We have a motor with a gear on it. And then the bottom piece of wood already has a T-nut and the laser glued into the wood, so you don't have to worry about alignment. Okay, you'll also have a ball head for when you finally mount your camera. I'm just going to set that aside for now. And then one of the most important pieces is a control board that's in an ESD sensitive bag. Go ahead and open that bag. Don't worry too much about ESD. It's a pretty resilient board, so you're not going to kill it accidentally with electrostatic shock. Go ahead and discard the box and the rest of the foam, or keep it for when you go out into the field. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with assembling the Nyx Tracker. Good. Okay, let's get started by emptying the bag of parts. Right here, okay. Now a couple of the large pieces is a lid cover. This will go on top of the control box in the wood right there, okay? You're going to want to remove the protective coating on the top of it. Probably best done with your fingernails, or if you don't have any fingernails, a razor blade, or an X-Acto knife, something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and remove that, just like that. Okay, throw away the refuse. There's also a hinge. Go ahead and bend it a few times to make sure it's pretty flexible, and then set it aside. Now for the rest of these parts, you have a stowage clip that will hold the driving rod in place when you're not using the tracker. You have a self-tapping nut where the driving rod will fasten into. We have a 1/4-20 button head socket fastener, basically, and that will be what your ball head mounts to. Okay, and then we have a spring that keeps the tracker preloaded. Okay, now you have a bunch of fasteners. We have 5 number 4 40s by 3/8 inch long. Okay, so let's go ahead and set 5 of those guys aside. Then you have 4 larger screws that are flat top like this. Those are going to fasten the hinge in place. Set those aside. Then we have a longer number 440 screw, and that's 5/8 inch, I believe, and go ahead and set that aside. Then we have a bunch of these smaller number 2 screws, okay? We have 8 of those. So I'm going to put those over here. And then lastly, we have an eye bolt, okay? All right, so now you know what kind of fasteners we have. Those will all come in handy here very shortly. Before we go ahead and actually get assembling, let's prep the control board by removing some protective film covers. Okay, there are 2 of them. There's one right here, and then there's one right here on top of the dip switch. Okay, so this is where your power connector goes. Go ahead and use your pliers or your fingers and just pull it right off, okay? Just like that. Go ahead and discard the refuse. And then for the dip switch, it's probably going to be easier to take this film off. It's basically a polyamide tape. Go ahead and you just use your fingernails, okay? Now at this time, I usually set the speed and the hemisphere settings to what you want. This switch, when it's in the top setting, is for the northern hemisphere. So most of us live in the northern hemisphere, so I set it to north. And then this right here are your speed settings. Now the lid will tell you what speed settings do what. We have a starscape mode, which allows you to create star trails a lot faster. We have a lunar mode, which allows you to shoot things like eclipses. And then we have the standard star trail mode. So we want the top dip switch to the left and the bottom dip switch to the right. Okay? So just set that like that. Okay? Those are your speed settings. All right? Now sometimes it helps just to bend the laser contact just a tiny bit forward. So a tiny bit that way, the one that's sticking up right there. But other than that, it should be good to go. Okay? So now that we've prepped the control board, we can go ahead and get assembling. I like to start with the top piece, and the first thing we can do before we put the hinge in is put in the 1/4 button head screw. So we take our number 4 Allen key, apply a little bit of pressure while we're screwing it in, and then after a couple of turns it should be able to thread itself all the way through. Now don't worry too much about it getting straight. It's going to go ahead and straighten itself as you fasten it. That's part of the design here. And then once it bottoms out, you're going to feel it get a lot harder to turn. Don't overdo it there. You don't want to you don't want to destroy those threads you've created in the wood. Just give it a little tightness right there. You'll know. Don't overdo it. Okay, now we're done with the number 4 Allen wrench, so we can go ahead and set that aside. Now we can put the hinge on. Go ahead and grab the hinge, slide it right in like that. Take 2 of your number 6 flathead screws and screw them in. Now you don't have to worry about alignment. There are pilot holes for all this stuff, and as long as you screw it in, it's going to align itself. Okay, it's part of the design. Now again on this, you just want to pay attention to the feel. You don't want to strip the threads that you've created in the wood. But even if you strip them, you can always put a little bit of glue in there or something like that. There are always solutions. Okay. Now, once you've got the hinge in place, what we're going to do next is we're going to fasten in the eye bolt. All right? This is where the spring will connect to. Okay, so go ahead and grab your pliers and hold the eye bolt just like that. Now when you're starting the eye bolt in the pilot hole here near the top, you want to apply a little bit of pressure again to get those threads self-tapping. Once that pressure is applied and it starts to tap itself, you can screw it with your fingers. Just like that. It'll get a little bit harder, so you probably want to switch back to the pliers. And now, how far do you go, you ask? Well, you go until you start to feel it on the opposite side, right here, okay? So I put my finger there, and then, okay, I start to feel it just a tiny bit, and that's where I stop. You want to keep the eye bolt parallel with this trough. If it's off a little bit, it doesn't really matter, okay? The last thing we're going to do on the top piece is put in the self-tapping nut, which the driving rod threads into. You're going to use your number 5 Allen key for that, just like this. And again, Put a little bit of pressure while you're starting it, and then once it's started, it should tap itself. Now on this guy, you want to keep it fairly flat as you're screwing in, okay? But once it's started again, it'll stay flat. Go ahead and screw it, and again, you don't want to go too hard on this. Just snug right at the bottom, just like that, okay? Perfect. So our top piece is now done. We set it aside. And now is when the real fun begins. So we're going to the bottom piece. First thing we'll do is we'll put in the stowage clip. That's pretty easy. Take this guy, take one of your 5 number 4s over here, and go ahead and screw it in right there. Okay. Next, what's probably best to do is put the motor in, okay? Just like this. It's got a very long set of wires coming out of it, but don't worry about that just yet. Now with the motor, what you're going to notice is you've got 2 ears to the motor mount. You've got one with 1 pilot hole and one with 3 pilot holes. Fasten the one with 1 pilot hole first. The reason there are 3 is so that we can adjust it to make sure that it has the right contact with the larger gear. So again, a number 4 screw is used here. One of your shorter remaining number 4 screws. Just screw that in. Just like that. Okay? Now we're going to take our large gear off of the driving rod, and we're going to do a critical step here. And that is placing the large gear into the counterbored hole right there. We want to make sure that the gears are contacting correctly. We don't want them to be too far apart because then the large gear will spin freely with no contact. We don't want them too close because then they can jam up against each other, okay? We want it just right, and usually that's the middle pilot hole. On some units, the motors, the tolerancing on how the motors place the driving rod there is a little bit off, okay? So you're gonna have to look, but this is pretty good. You got contact with the teeth, but you've got some space, all right? So now that we figured out that the middle pilot hole is okay, we're going to take another number 4 screw and set it in place, just like that, into the middle pilot hole. Okay, go ahead and put the large gear over there. Next, I think we can dive right into the control board insertion, okay? Before we put the control board in, you want to attach the battery pack. You can attach it later if you want, but it's a little bit easier if you attach it now. So go ahead and put the connector of the battery pack onto the connector on the control board, just like that. Connect it and it'll snap into place, okay? Now this next part, what we want to do is we want to slide the control board into the laser right here, all right? Now this diving board that's on the control board, this little diving board type part right there, we want it to slide under the spring that's in the laser right here, okay? And it's not too hard, but just, you know, keep in mind what we're trying to go for here. So just like that, I usually grab a pair of pliers. It makes it easy. Put it into that hole right there and just push it right in, just like that. Okay, snap it into place. All right, looks pretty good. I do a visual check just to make sure that the spring is contacting the contact on the control board, and all looks good. All right. So now we want to fasten the control board into place with the small number 2 fasteners. So I usually start with the one up here. Just screw it in. And the same as with the other fasteners, I put my finger on the opposite side just to make sure it doesn't come through all the way. And I stop when I start feeling it. Okay? Now there are 4 holes on the control board. You want to fasten all 4 to keep the control board in place. Going to the bottom right, just like that. Okay, 2 more. One here. lastly, go ahead and move the wires on the battery pack aside and fasten in right there. Perfect. Okay, that's the hardest part. So now let's go ahead and fasten the battery pack on. But before we do that, we want to mount, or excuse me, we want to connect the motor. All right. The way I like to do it is I wind up the leads like this to get rid of the excess. You want the red wire to be on the leftmost contact. Okay, so just like this. Red wire on the leftmost contact. Okay. Just like that. All right. Now we get ready to put our battery pack on. What we do is we take this excess wire and I usually wrap it around the column here where it's going to mount. All right, making sure that none of the wires are going to get pinched. Set it down and it looks like I can feel that something's getting pinched. So I lift it up and I check, okay, yep, those wires were in the way. All right, now I can tell that it's flush against the wood, okay, just like that. I hold it in place. I'm going to take my last remaining number 4 by 3/8 screws and I'm going to just fasten straight in like this into place. Excellent. Okay, one more mounting hole. Now before we go too much farther, we're going to want to test the control board to make sure everything is working correctly. Because sometimes the contact with the laser isn't great or we've forgotten a step or something. So fasten in the other fastener. And now it's solid. It's a good solid piece of Nyx tracker. Okay, so go ahead and put in the batteries now. We want to test the motor and we want to test the laser to make sure that they both work. Okay, so mine was already on and the motor immediately started going. The red light indicates that it's on. I'm going to just test the north-south hemisphere switch and you'll see that the motor now goes the other way. Okay? Perfect. All looks good. Test the laser. You can see that it's working. Okay? This laser is going to help you to be able to align at night. It will illuminate the night sky and you'll be able to see a nice line that points exactly where the hinge is aligned. Makes alignment very easy. It's one of the key features of the Nyx tracker. Okay, we're almost ready. Or we're almost finished rather. Okay, I forgot to say that you want to scrape off the remaining protective cover for your lid here because it can be misleading. You might think that that's the positions for the dip switch, but it's not. If you look closely, you can see where the positions should be. Anyway, scrape that off and go ahead and place the lid right here, making sure your Nyx tracker is off. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to grab the remaining 4 small number 2 screws and we're going to fasten the lid in place using those. Okay. One here. One here. Now again, with these small ones, you want to be careful not to over tighten them, otherwise you strip them in the wood. It's not the end of the world. You can apply a little bit of glue there, but it's best if you just, give it 4 or 5 good turns, and you'll feel it tighten before you strip them. But just pay attention. You gotta be one with the materials you're using. Gotta listen to it and be nice to it. Okay, just like that. All right, great. Our lid is in place, our laser's working, our motor's working, and we're almost finished. Before we go farther though, I want to pinch the spring here like this. This keeps it from accidentally coming off of the mounting screw, which is the longer number 4 screw, and you only have one of those. Okay, so go ahead and put it through the eye there of the spring and we're going to fasten it right above the motor right here into that pilot hole. Now again, you want to just hold your finger on the back side, and once you start feeling the tip of the fastener coming through the back side, you stop. That's when you know how deep it's supposed to be. Okay, just like that. And your spring will be somewhat loose. Okay, now when you close it, the spring is going to rest in the stowage position right there. And in the deployed position, the spring attaches to the eye bolt right here. Okay, so we're almost there. This is exciting. We then fasten the hinge with your remaining 2 number 6 screws. Probably are tired of hearing me talk about screwing in fasteners. There's only so much you can say about it. I would stay away from any electrical screwdrivers when you're screwdriving into wood like this, because it doesn't give you feedback, and you'll end up stripping a lot of your pilot holes. Okay, unless you do this for a living and you've developed your own process for using electrical hardware, or electrical tools rather. Okay, cool. Now before we put the driving rod in, we're going to just make sure that everything clears, and it clears perfectly. So that's going to be your stowage position right there. Alright, let's go ahead and put the driving rod in place and just make sure that everything looks good with the tracker. Okay, now this will all be repeated in the how to use the Nyx tracker video, but I just want to go over deploying the tracker real quick. Fasten the rod into the threaded rod in your top piece, making sure that the hub of the large gear faces away from the top piece. Okay, just like this. Give it, 6 or 7 good turns, but you don't have to go crazy there. And then you might have to just bend a little bit the rod just to seat it into the counterbored hole right there. Okay, you might have to rotate your gear a little bit just so that the teeth line up correctly. Okay, cool. So that's how it's supposed to be. Now, last step for the deployment is take the spring, attach to the eye bolt, and we're good to go. That's your Nyx tracker right there, fully assembled and ready to go. Oh, not quite fully assembled. Got to put the ball head on. Now it's fully assembled. Just like that. Alright, if you guys encounter any problems, don't hesitate to reach out to me, but that right there is the how to assemble the do-it-yourself kit for the Nyx tracker. Thank you very much.